It starts with the number 1 billion. A billion people connected not just by history or geography, but by smartphones, fiber cables, and digital apps. That number isn't just a milestone, it's a message. And the world's largest tech companies are listening. Because while the West builds for the present, India is building the future. Quietly, steadily, and now, unavoidably, at scale. Over the last decade, India has emerged as more than just a consumer market. It's become the testing ground, the battleground, and in some ways the last great prize in the global digital economy. Every major company, be it Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, or Apple, is investing, lobbying, adapting, and scaling in India, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. The global internet is saturating. In Europe and North America, user growth is flat. In China, foreign tech is locked out. That leaves India, the world's largest open internet economy, as the final frontier. With over 800 million internet users already, and hundreds of millions more coming online, India isn't just participating in the digital age, it's defining it. But this story isn't just about numbers, it's about timing, it's about ambition, and it's about a demographic and technological convergence the world hasn't seen before. A billion users means a billion data points, a billion opportunities, a billion dreams waiting to be digitized. Tech giants are no longer treating India as an emerging market, they're treating it as a core market. Google has invested over $10 billion through its India Digitization Fund. Meta has poured in billions to scale WhatsApp and enable commerce through Jio. Amazon has committed over $20 billion to India operations. Microsoft is deeply embedded in India's cloud infrastructure and AI development. And Apple, once a luxury presence, is now manufacturing iPhones in India and even opening flagship stores in Mumbai and Delhi. This is not charity, this is strategy, because India is now central to the global business models of big tech. But why? What's behind this strategic pivot? What makes India different? It begins with scale. No other open democracy on earth has India's digital footprint. In 2016, the launch of Jio, a low-cost 4G telecom revolution, brought millions of Indians online at once. Overnight, India's internet ecosystem exploded. Today, Indians consume more data per capita than any other country in the world. And this is not just social media scrolling. This is commerce, education, health, payments, and governance, all going digital. Then there's innovation. Contrary to old stereotypes, India is no longer just the back office of the world, it's the laboratory. Indian engineers are not just building code for Silicon Valley, they're building platforms for India, and increasingly for the world. Consider UPI, the Unified Payments Interface, a homegrown digital payment system that processed over 11 billion transactions in a single month. It's fast, free, and interoperable, and now being studied and adopted in countries across Asia and Africa. This is not India following the West, this is India leading the world in fintech infrastructure. Or take Aadhaar, the biometric identity system that has enrolled over 1.3 billion people. It has enabled direct benefit transfers, reduced corruption, and created the backbone of India's digital public goods. Together, Aadhaar, UPI, and India Stack have created a tech infrastructure unlike anything in the developing world, a kind of digital scaffolding on which both private innovation and public service can be built. For global companies, this is a dream scenario, a massive user base, growing income levels, mobile-first habits, and a digitally savvy youth population, all within a democratic framework that encourages free market competition. No other country offers that combination today. And then there's talent. India produces over 1.5 million engineers every year. It has more software developers than most of Europe combined, and it's not just quantity, it's quality. Some of the world's biggest tech companies are now led by Indian-born CEOs, Sundar Pichai at Google, Satya Nadella at Microsoft, Arvind Krishna at IBM. But the influence goes deeper. Indian engineers, product managers, and designers now form the core teams of many Silicon Valley giants. India is not just a user base, it's a builder base. And that dual role of consuming and creating makes India indispensable to the future of global tech. Yet India's path is not without challenges. The regulatory environment is evolving. Data privacy laws, foreign investment limits, and content moderation rules have caused friction between the Indian government and global firms. But these are signs of maturity. India is asserting its digital sovereignty, just like the US and EU have done. And global companies are learning to adapt, because the cost of staying out is simply too high. TikTok found that out the hard way. When India banned the Chinese app over data security concerns, it lost access to over 200 million users overnight. That gap was quickly filled by Indian startups like Moj and Chingari, and global players like YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. The message was clear: India moves on. The ecosystem adapts, the users stay. That adaptability is part of India's power. It is not dependent on any single platform or any single company. It is building its own tools, its own standards, and its own narrative. And yet the world is watching. India's billion-user market is not just a business opportunity. It is a stage of proving ground for ideas that could scale across the global south. What works in India, digital payments, remote education, telemedicine, can work in Indonesia, Nigeria, Brazil. The problems are similar, and India is showing that the solutions can be homegrown. To ignore this market is to ignore the future, and the world's smartest companies know it. India's tech moment is not just about where users are, it's about where the future is being shaped. 1 billion users create more than demand, they generate leverage. And for global companies, India is no longer optional, it's mission critical, not only as a revenue engine, but as a force shaping policy, innovation, and even ethics in the digital age. Consider the shifts we've seen in the past 5 years. Western companies used to bring a product to India as an afterthought, after launching in the US or Europe. Now India is becoming the primary test market for new features, payment models, and even apps. YouTube Shorts was pushed aggressively in India, following the TikTok ban. WhatsApp Pay was tailored for Indian users. Amazon redesigned its logistics model in India before replicating elements elsewhere. And Apple, famously known for premium pricing, has been adjusting its product and service strategy to cater to India's value-driven market without compromising quality. What's driving this reversal? 2 words: demographic dividend. India is the youngest major economy in the world. With a median age of around 28, it's a country where the average internet user is not just active, they're mobile-first, app-driven, and aspirational. This is not a market consuming legacy internet. This is a population skipping desktops and going straight to cloud, skipping plastic cards and going straight to QR code payments, skipping brick-and-mortar banking and jumping straight to neobanks and fintech platforms. And when you add 5G, AI, and satellite internet into that mix, you begin to understand why companies are not just betting on India, but building for India first. But there's something deeper happening. India is not just adopting technology, it's exporting it. Take UPI again. Countries like Singapore, UAE, France, and Sri Lanka are now integrating or partnering with India's digital payment ecosystem. This is soft power of a new kind, not based on armies or alliances, but on standards and code. India is becoming the architect of digital infrastructure across the global south. Its digital public infrastructure model, Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, is being studied by governments across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, and it's being supported by multilateral forums like the G20 and World Bank. Why? Because it works, and it scales. This kind of influence puts India in a unique position. It's no longer a passive player in global tech, it's becoming a rule maker, a platform builder, a system exporter. And global companies, if they want to be part of that growth story, must align not only with Indian consumers, but with India's digital priorities. That's why you're seeing new kinds of partnerships. Meta didn't just invest in Jio, it aligned its strategy with Jio's retail and payments ambitions. Google's investment in Bharti Airtel is not just financial, it's infrastructural. Microsoft is working with Indian states on AI for agriculture and education. Amazon is helping digitize small businesses under Digital India initiatives. These are not one-off moves, they're long-term stakes in a country that is becoming both the lab and the launchpad for 21st century tech. But this isn't a frictionless process. As India asserts its digital sovereignty, it's rewriting the rules of the game. Data localization, content regulations, and competition laws are evolving fast. Foreign platforms are being told, if you want to scale in India, you must build in India, store in India, and increasingly answer to India. This shift can be uncomfortable for global players used to operating under Western norms. But adaptation is the cost of access. And access to India means access to the most valuable, non-Chinese digital market on Earth. There's also the global political lens. As tensions rise between the US and China, companies are actively diversifying their supply chains, data centers, and engineering hubs. India has become central to this realignment. It's not just about selling to India, it's about building in India for the world. You see it in manufacturing. Apple now makes a significant share of its iPhones in India, not just for Indian consumers, but for export. Dell, HP, Samsung, and others are ramping up electronics manufacturing in places like Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. India's production-linked incentive, PLI schemes, are turning the country into a competitive base for high-tech assembly and fabrication. You see it in cloud. Google Cloud, AWS, and Azure are building more local data centers to comply with Indian regulations and serve regional needs. You see it in AI and R&D. India is home to some of the largest innovation hubs for Google, Intel, and Microsoft. These centers aren't just assisting headquarters, they're setting product roadmaps, building global tools, and generating patents. India's relevance is no longer just market-based, it's strategic. But perhaps the biggest indicator of India's rising influence is psychological. Tech leaders are no longer asking if they should be in India, they're asking how fast and how deep. The center of gravity is shifting. For decades, the flow of digital innovation was largely one way, from Silicon Valley to the rest of the world. Today, that flow is becoming multi-directional. Ideas born in Bangalore influence roadmaps in California. Policies framed in Delhi are studied in Brussels. Consumer behavior in Mumbai is shaping algorithms in Menlo Park. India's billion-user market is not just scaling, it's leading. And this has forced tech companies to rethink everything, from their UI design and product pricing to their public policy strategies and long-term bets. This isn't about adapting to India anymore, It's about letting India shape the future of tech. Because what India is proving, through scale, innovation, and resilience, is that the next wave of digital transformation won't come from old power centers. It will come from countries that can combine talent, demand, and ambition on an unprecedented scale. India is doing that, and the world is paying attention. There's a reason global CEOs don't just visit India anymore, they court it. Because in India, it's not just about access to a billion users, it's access to a billion aspiring users. It's not just about tapping into a large pool of engineers. It's about integrating into a system that's gradually becoming one of the world's most digitally streamlined economies. Every company with an eye on the future understands that missing India today could mean being irrelevant tomorrow. Even a decade ago, the Indian digital economy was seen as a distant bet, exciting but unripe. Today, that bet has matured. Jio's disruption of mobile internet pricing opened the floodgates. Digital payments exploded through UPI. The government created a unified digital identity layer with Aadhaar. India leapfrogged legacy systems and built a modern digital stack from the ground up. The world noticed and adjusted its strategies. Amazon is investing billions in warehousing, logistics, and cloud infrastructure, not because it's a charity, but because it sees the long game. Microsoft is partnering with Indian edtech and healthcare startups, embedding itself in sectors poised for exponential growth. Even Netflix, which once struggled in India, is retooling its content and pricing to stay in the game. Every giant, from Meta to Apple to Tesla, is learning that success in India doesn't come from just exporting a Western model. It comes from customizing, localizing, embedding, and ultimately respecting the Indian market for what it is, a complex, layered, but unimaginably powerful economic engine. There's another layer too. India is not just a market of consumers. Increasingly, it's a market of builders. The startup ecosystem in Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Gurgaon is no longer just mimicking Silicon Valley. It's creating original solutions for uniquely Indian problems, and those solutions are being exported to the world. SaaS companies born in India are serving clients in Europe. Agritech platforms are being studied in Africa. India isn't just catching up, it's shaping how global tech evolves. There was a time when India's size was its challenge. Today, it's its advantage. Because scale, when paired with innovation and ambition, becomes a force multiplier. And India, with its billion users and its restless energy, is exactly that. So when we ask, why can't tech giants afford to stay out of India? The answer is simple. Because India is no longer just a destination, it's a direction. Ignore it, and you're outpaced. Engage with it, and you're part of the next big wave. India isn't just the future, it's already here. And it's already changing everything.